President Trump is meeting with Canada's new prime minister today amid trade and political tensions, the president's tariffs, and talk about making Canada the 51st state have strained relations with America's second largest trading partner and key ally. Here's CBS News from the White House.
Canada's new Prime Minister Mark Carney has not shied away from criticizing President Trump. He was elected in part for pledging to stand up to the administration.
I go there with the expectation of constructive, difficult, but constructive discussions.
As a top trade partner, tariffs are expected to be at the top of the agenda.
I'm not sure what he wants to see me about, but I guess he wants to make a deal. Everybody does.
But as recently as Monday, the president's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick signaled negotiations will be complicated.
They have their socialist regime, and it's basically feeding off of America. I mean, the president calls that out all the time. Why do we make cars in Canada? Why do we do our films in Canada? Come on.
Business leaders say not reaching an agreement is not an option since the North American economies are intertwined.
If the issue is of a trade deficit, which we can dispute whether there is or isn't one, but let's address what actually needs to be addressed and not morph all kinds of other issues to make this more complicated.
Goldie Hyder of the Business Council of Canada says he hopes today's meeting serves as a reset.
Business loves certainty and predictability, and unfortunately what's been created is uncertainty and unpredictability.
Under former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Canada announced retaliatory tariffs on tens of billions of dollars of U.S. goods. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Happening right now, it is Election Day here in Ohio and Michigan. We are at 6,687 votes counted today. That's in addition to 6,300 votes that were absentee ballot or for voters who cast their ballots early. From mayoral races to levies on the ballot, WTOL 11 is here to explain it all right now. So let's go. There's a Perrysburg school levy renewal on the ballot today. And after the last two Perrysburg levies failed, we asked Superintendent Tom Hostler how he's feeling ahead of today's critical vote.
I think in the community here in Perrysburg, we've had a good run, but I think historically, people are, wanting to make sure that they understand the issue and the schools have to work very hard to get people's support.
For clarification, today's vote is not for a new levy for Perrysburg schools. It's a renewal, meaning existing levy that voters approved expired, and to renew it, voters have to agree to that. 3 people are running to be the next mayor of that city, but it'll go down to 2 after today's primary. Political newcomer Aaron Harder, city council member Mark Weber, and former city council member Deborah Bourne are in the running. The 2 top vote getters will move on to the November election, and the winner of that race will replace term-limited Mayor Tom Mackin. Toledoans will also be voting on mayor. The top 2 of the 3, which include incumbent Mayor Wade Kapsakavich, Roberto Torres, and Harold Harris, will move on to November's general election. Kapsakavich is running for an unprecedented 3rd term, and both Torres and Harris are active community advocates. People in Marblehead will be deciding on whether or not to support a levy funding the police department, a decision that could determine the future of that department. Village leaders say they're considering a few options if this levy fails. One is cutting the department completely and contracting with Danbury Township Police Services. Another is adding a village income tax.
But at some point, we have to be able to pay for the services that we're providing. If we can't do that, we're not providing good services to people.
Danbury Township's police chief tells us if the levy fails, the department would be interested in contracting with Marblehead, but that would need to be discussed with village and township officials first. Pemberville is going back to voters asking for a 0.5% income tax increase. 56% of voters turned this levy down in November. The city's mayor says the general fund is getting lower and they need this income tax to rebuild it. If it does not pass, the mayor says cuts could start as early as summer, starting with the police department.
I don't want to do that. That's the last thing I want to do. Community policing is like right up there with, it's incredibly important. But yeah, we might have to make cuts to, it's more than likely we will eventually have to make cuts to the police department if we can't get this thing passed.
The mayor says cuts could also be made to the pool hours during the summer. She says she's prepared to keep going back to voters if the measure fails again. There's controversy surrounding a proposed zoning plan on the ballot in Hancock County. One Power claims the ballot language does not allow people to know what the zoning resolution is about. So it filed a lawsuit against Allen Township commissioners and the County Board of Elections. The wording calls for the township to be established as an agricultural district. One Power is considered industrial and says the measure is a way to block it from installing more wind turbines.
We're going to protect our rights. So just as I will defend and protect everybody's right to go to a ballot, I will defend and protect everybody's right to make sure the process that got to that ballot is legal. And so we asked a judge to step in. We asked a judge to impound, not destroy. Impound just means lock in a box until a judge decides what's going to happen with it.
The judge hearing this case has yet to reach a verdict. A pre-trial hearing on this is set for tomorrow afternoon. Whiteford Agricultural School District is asking residents to vote on two bond proposals today, replacing what voters had been paying for other projects. The first is for $6.5 million. If passed, it would be used to upgrade the elementary school. The other proposal calls for $1 million to be used for athletic upgrades for the varsity softball and baseball fields. Everyone in Ohio can vote on issue 2. It's a statewide infrastructure funding plan. Lucas County residents will see a replacement levy to fund the metro parks, and a number of school districts are back before voters. In Wood County, Bowling Green, and in Hancock County, Findlay are asking for new money. Rossford School's renewal levy on the ballot will be a decrease for taxpayers. Voters across Ohio will decide whether to pass issue 2, which renews the state capital improvements program and is not a new tax. If approved, it would create a constitutional amendment to allow the state to issue up to $2.5 billion in bonds over the next decade. The money would go to help local governments fund roads, bridges, and wastewater treatment systems. And a quick reminder for those voting in Ohio, you do need a valid ID. Some of those include a driver's license, state ID card, interim ID issued by the Ohio BMV, or a U.S. passport or passport card. Ohio polls close at 7:30. In Michigan, 8 p.m. We have all the information you need to know, including where you can go to vote, on our online voters guide on WTOL.com. And if you still need a ride to the polling location at some point today, you can get one for free if you live in Lucas County or northern Wood County. You can call the number on your screen, 419-VOTE-NOW. That's 868-3669.